The line between reality and terror blurs. From unsettling strangers to dark secrets, these stories explore moments of suspense that will leave you questioning what's lurking in the shadows. Prepare for a gripping journey through 10 unforgettable, spine-tingling experiences. The story number 1. Unexpected Visitor. It was a chilly autumn evening when Sarah settled into her cozy living room, enjoying the crackling warmth of the fireplace. Her kids were already asleep upstairs, and her husband was out of town for work. She loved these rare, quiet moments, the house wrapped in a peaceful silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves outside. Just as Sarah was about to pour herself a glass of wine, there was a knock at the door. It was strange. Nobody ever visited this late. She hesitated for a moment, glancing at the clock. It was almost 10 p.m. Maybe it was a neighbor in need of something? Curiosity getting the better of her, Sarah walked to the front door and peeked through the peephole. A woman stood there, shivering in the cold, her face partially hidden under a hood. Sarah's heart sank. The woman looked vaguely familiar, like someone she'd met once at a friend's gathering years ago. Without thinking too much, she unlocked the door and cracked it open. "Can I help you?" Sarah asked cautiously. The woman smiled faintly, her eyes darting around nervously. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm a friend of your mom's. She asked me to drop something off." Sarah's stomach tightened. Her mom lived out of state and rarely sent anything. Still, the woman looked harmless enough, her small frame bundled in layers of clothing. Sarah reluctantly opened the door wider. Before Sarah could react, the woman pushed her way inside, slamming the door behind her. Sarah's heart raced as the woman stepped forward, her smile twisted into something menacing. "I didn't come here to drop something off," she whispered, her voice low and chilling. Panicking, Sarah backed away, her eyes searching for anything to defend herself. The woman's eyes gleamed with a strange intensity, as if she had been waiting for this moment. She took another step forward, and that's when Sarah heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps, her neighbor Mark coming to check on her. The unexpected visitor froze, hearing the footsteps too. Before she could act, Mark's knock interrupted the eerie tension. With a look of frustration, the woman bolted for the back door and vanished into the night. Mark's timely arrival saved Sarah from what could have been a much darker fate. But the identity and motives of the woman remained a mystery, haunting Sarah for years to come. Story number 2. Grandmother's Cold Revenge. It was a bitterly cold winter evening when Margaret, an 80-year-old grandmother, began her usual walk home from the town's community center. The snow crunched beneath her boots as she shuffled down the dimly lit sidewalk, her breath visible in the freezing air. Despite her age, Margaret was sharp and vigilant. A widow of many years, she prided herself on her independence. But that night, something was different. As she rounded the corner near her house, she felt it. Someone was behind her. Margaret's heart raced, though she kept her pace steady, refusing to show any sign of fear. The footsteps quickened, growing louder with each step. She risked a glance over her shoulder and saw a shadowy figure moving toward her. Her hand tightened around the strap of her purse. But more importantly, it found the familiar grip of the small .38 revolver tucked away in her coat pocket. A gift from her late husband, who had always insisted on her being able to protect herself. The stranger's voice rang out behind her, rough and menacing. "Give me your purse, lady." Margaret didn't hesitate. She turned sharply to face the man, his features obscured by the hood of his jacket. He was younger, stronger, but he underestimated her. "I don't think so," she said, her voice cold and steady. Before he could react, she raised the gun and fired. The blast echoed down the empty street. The man stumbled back, clutching his arm as blood seeped through his jacket. He fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Margaret didn't move for a moment, watching as the reality of what she had done settled in. But she didn't feel guilty. She felt justified. This man had chosen her as his victim, but he had no idea that this grandmother wasn't an easy target. The police arrived shortly after, and the man was taken into custody. He survived the gunshot wound and was later sentenced to prison for attempted robbery. For the rest of her life, Margaret never regretted what she did that night. "I didn't seek revenge," she would say, "but if you come for me, you'd better be ready to face the consequences."